Welcome to another Learning Council podcast. This is your host, LeiLani, CEO and publisher at Learning Council News, Media, and Research. So our topic today is future casting Edtech's trajectory in K12. Everybody knows Learning Council itself does a lot of projections. We do a lot of videos on this. Huge topic. And of course, since the recent election and everything's changing, blah, 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 people are like, what is the future? And then AI came swirling in. So I have with me a new friend today, Brian Shaw, CEO of Discovery Education, big company in the EdTech field in education, does a lot of different things. So let me tell you a little bit about him before I bring him on, because he's awesome. So as the CEO of a company serving 4.5 million teachers and 45 million students in approximately 100 countries around the world, Brian is uniquely suited to provide insight into trends shaping the EdTech environment. Also, some of the education trends that you're seeing yourself, right? So you're going to talk also about the declining student engagement you're seeing in learning and the desire for more tech tools teachers are screening for that help students connect what is taught in the classroom to the outside world, to name two. So prior to your role, and this is kind of important that we bring this in because it's not just one company you've been in. So you've served as Discovery Education's Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer. Those are the two fun things. And in those capacities, you've done organizational global accounting, finance function, you've overseen IT, operations, corporate strategy, focus on mergers and acquisitions activities. This is like the highbrow stuff. Like I like the stuff, like as a CEO myself, like I don't even want to get into that stuff, but this is fun. So you joined Discovery from a company by the name of Red Ventures, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of my favorite places in the whole world. We could stay on and talk about that for an extra hour. And it's a company that does technology-enabled portfolios of all your digital companies. So you're one of a family, apparently. And you've created corporate development, investment, investor relations, all those functions from scratch for them. Awesome. Okay, so prior to even that, you had leadership roles in financial planning and analysis at Time Warner, fun company, and also assurance for Ernst & Young. So you're coming into a time when a lot of education is having to focus on their finances. So I want to get into that today too. So welcome, Brian. Glad to have you.
Well, thanks, LeiLani. I'm really excited to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start off with Discovery for now. Tell me a little bit about Discovery as a company new to our audience.
Absolutely. So Discovery Education is a leader in educational technology, and we're the creators of essential K12 solutions that are used in classrooms throughout the world. As you mentioned in your intro, we serve over 4.5 million educators, about 45 million students. We're in over 1 in 3 classes here in the US, and we partner with schools and districts and states, and globally, we even partner at the countrywide level to deliver our solutions to teachers and students.
Yeah, you'd have to, because I think there's only about 3.1 million teachers in the United States. So you have to be bigger than that because there's not enough teachers here for you. Okay, so also there's an array of products, and part of them are in the digital curriculum side. Am I correct?
Yes, yeah,
This
absolutely.
is something I talk about a lot. I love digital curriculum. I'm flipped out about it. We could go on and on about that particular part because our research is showing, teachers want more of it, but it's the incorporation that they stumble on. So let's talk about your research, and I'll maybe interject some of those points as we go along. So you've got a lot of research that you've been doing too about declining student learning. This is really hot for people to talk about because they want to know where's the future if this is going on. So you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually very timely. I don't know if you saw the updated NAEP scores came out this week, and yeah, learning and engagement is not where it needs to be. And so for the benefit of your listeners, Discovery Education recently released a research report. It's available for free on our website, discoveryeducation.com, and it really provides a comprehensive view of the current educational landscape. And we did it and approached it by, first of all, engaging a well-known third party, the Harris Poll, to really survey the entire ecosystem. So we're talking superintendents, teachers, parents, students. Over 1,500 respondents participated in this. And we learned a few things. There were a number of really, really good insights, but I think there are a few that are probably worth talking about, even just based on the first couple minutes of this conversation.
Okay.
The first is around engagement. Curiosity is important to everyone. And there was broad agreement in this research report that curiosity is just very, very important to learning. And that probably sounds obvious, but more than 90% of the stakeholders surveyed agreed that curiosity is central to learning. And what's important there, though, is the next question that we asked, which is there enough opportunity to be curious in the classroom? And the answer was no. So 82% of students and 75% of teachers said there's just not enough opportunity to be curious in today's classroom. So that's an important thing. Everyone thinks it's important, but there's not enough opportunity in the classroom today. And I think there's a pretty clear industry lesson in terms of where we need to go as an EdTech ecosystem to really deliver that meaningful, engaging, relevant content that brings the real world into the classroom. And yeah, I'd like to talk about that a little bit because that's something that's really core to the DNA of Discovery Education. We take the approach of having a multiple pronged strategy around engagement. And the first thing we do is we design content that is just really intentionally bringing the real world into the classroom. So say you're in a science class and instead of reading about a polar bear, we actually take you on a virtual field trip to the North Pole to learn about them firsthand. That is just a way more interesting way to capture the students' attention and get them thinking and engaged and wanting to learn more. Another thing that we do, and I'd love to talk about this more as well, we offer interactive and gamified learning experiences that really activate curiosity. They also build confidence and motivation as well. And it's not only does this make learning more fun, but I see this at home with my own kids. It allows us to meet each student where they are in the learning process and provide students and teachers with really, really targeted feedback. And I think that's going to be increasingly important. And then I think the third piece of the puzzle for EdTech in particular around curiosity is bringing the latest technology. And for almost 25 years now, we've been taking pride in innovation. We were the first to bring streaming to the classroom. We were the first to take what was a traditional digital print book and digitize it. And what we call our tech books are that first transition from a print book to a more interactive digital first solution. And more recently, we've been really focused on bringing platforms like augmented reality to the classroom in a way that really kind of delivers that high quality standards line curriculum, but in a really, really compelling and interesting way. So I think that curiosity theme is one that's really, really important. And there are a couple others that are probably worth noting in the report as well. And I'll go through them fairly quickly. We can dive into whichever one.
Yeah. No, I like it. You're like on my vibe. You've had coffee today, I take it.
A little bit of caffeine. I'm also just passionate about what we do. But yeah, I think the second theme, students want more life skills. And
Yeah.
what's interesting is about 90% of the respondents in our survey said that was really important, but only about
Yeah.
half the students think they're getting what they need in the classroom today. So
Yeah.
as you're thinking about preparing for future success, that's a pretty big gap again on clear alignment on what's important, but not really meeting the mark when we actually talk to our students. And again, that connection between the classroom and the real world is incredibly important. And one of the things that we've been working on at Discovery Education is really helping the teacher with a very simple answer to the question of when am I ever going to use this? And that can take a lot of different forms in a lot of different ways. But one of the things that we're working on that we're excited about is a new product called Career Connect. And Career Connect's all about early career exploration in the classroom. So it gives you the ability to have awareness about careers and exploration early on. And so this isn't really, really technical CTE in high school. I'm talking about elementary and middle school students being exposed to careers and understanding a bit about why the math lesson that they're worrying about or the science concept that they're being taught actually applies to things that are very real for their future. And that I think is an incredibly unique opportunity to do a couple of things. Career Connect can actually bring a professional into the classroom, and a teacher can request based on a job type, an industry, language preference, location.
Oh,
And
how fun.
for the professional, it's actually really cool too. I mean, companies are signing up for this because they're seeing it as an opportunity to really drive employee engagement and get their employees involved in the education ecosystem and their local community. So it's a really kind of cool dual-sided beneficial program that we've just rolled out.
Yeah, I like all this. I'm like, I don't know if you notice, I'm like writing down questions and comments I want to make. Okay, so you probably have more you want to say, but I want to back up and just talk a little bit about, this whole thing about this generation being disconnected and, not engaged as much. We've done a lot of research into the Alpha Gen, right? Like their channel, like what channel are they on? And they get to come to school, and the channel that they've been on since they were 2 years old is a mobile phone. And it's affected their reality in a phenomenally large way. And what we find is that a lot of times that's discounted rather than capitalized on. So I'm not necessarily saying let them be on their phone all the time. I'm saying use digital tools to emphasize what their brain is used to, right? Like that's where they're at. That's the channel they're on. They're also surfers, like, click through, click through, click through. So their attention spans are even shorter than ours were as adults. And so they're looking for the next thing. Like you give them one thing and then you want to expound on it for the next hour. They turn off and they look for the next thing. So what are your comments on what you found about that? Like, is there any sort of symbiosis between what you're doing with technology and those realities?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are a couple of key things I would jump to among many, but one, technology is best used in the classroom in combination with multiple other styles of teaching. So one of
Yes.
the products that I'm most excited about in our portfolio is a product called Mystery Science, and it is ready to go, easy to implement activities that are ready for a teacher to teach any number of important standards line topics, K through 5, science focused. And yes, there is a technology component to it. There are interactive, there are videos, and there are all sorts of other activities and visuals, but there's also
Manipulatives, probably.
yeah, it's so there are intentional breakpoints and it's pause for the teacher to actually have a discussion and engage the class. There are hands-on activities that actually require kids to get up, move around in the classroom, and see and feel the science themselves, live with their hands and not with the screen, and then come back
Yeah,
to the screen for additional instruction. So I think there's a balance in the ability to switch modes that's really, really
yeah,
important. And then the other piece, I think about, a number of our products, especially the ones that are designed for like a one-to-one device, having them be in digestible bites that are lessons that will teach a concept. Take math, for example, and our Dreambox math product is essentially designed to be able to be taken in short doses of, hey, let's go practice this concept, or let's go spend 15 minutes on Dreambox. And the students served up a personalized experience of what practice they need based on
yeah.
what they've done in the product. But it's not the
Smart.
hours of digital instruction in front of a screen. It is, you just were taught a lesson. Now let's essentially take a break or reward to go to that digital format that you find engaging. You get to earn coins, you get to unlock things in a gamified way, but it's reinforcing the traditional instruction that was just done. And I think that balance is really important.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely essential. Okay, so a couple other comments. For Learning Council, we've been doing a lot of research for our next book. And one of the things that we found is the human mind actually does think algorithmically. Some of the leading scientists have been talking about this for a long time, but we wanted to know, what is the difference between human intelligence and what is, this AI thing, right? And it comes down to curiosity is a mirror of the fact that the mind can create like the Markov principle that machines use, which is state to state coding capability, where a machine will move into a state where it has nothing and then there's something, and the nothing something is a state to state. Well, the human mind does the same thing. And that leads me to my comment on the human mind has the ability to not think, which leads to curiosity, because not thinking creates a vacuum. So your mind paying attention to something with nothing in it is the vacuum. And then that draws in your curiosity. So we were looking at the mechanics of actually what causes curiosity in something, right? Well, a vacuum to the human being is absolutely the most curious thing ever. So, like, if I told you a piece of gossip, Brian, and didn't fill in the details of who it was, like an office gossip, right? And I said, well, so and so was doing so, blah, 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 blah. Your mind would do this. It would invent who that was, or it would label it. It would put a masking label over the top of it saying, I don't really know, so I'm going to leave it here, but I'm going to maintain sort of a little point of energy on it until I find out the rest. Okay. So that sucks your attention away. The human mind has to fill vacuums you give it, right? So in terms of teaching, I find that fascinating, because if you give a person like a pristine wilderness and say, here's your goal, go do it, they're like, yay, because it's a vacuum. Like you've just presented them with a reason to be curious, right? So in terms of what you're building and doing and things that are going on with you guys, does this all seem to be underlying your techniques, like how you're building?
Yeah, it really does. And your research and insights are fascinating here, but it immediately clicked. So going back to our Mr. Science product, every one of our lessons starts with a question, and there are questions that were submitted by kids throughout the world, and we pick a question and we start by just asking the question, pausing, creating that vacuum, then opening it up for the teacher to just everyone raise your hand. What do you think about this? And it can be all sorts of different topics. Some of them are fun, learning about the history of how candy is made, which is one of my daughter's favorites, but also any number of other scientific, you know, topics. I mean, I think the solar eclipse last year was the single most popular lesson that we've ever done at Mystery Science. And pose the question, pause, teacher gets some just like, what do you think about this? What does anyone have an idea? And then we dive into the exploration together,
Yeah.
teacher-led, student interactive, to build on that curiosity and actually turn it into learning. So it makes total sense. And that now all of a sudden, actually, I'm learning about why that product and that methodology is resonating as well as it does in the market. So I'm learning something here too.
Yeah, you're gonna have to buy my book now when it comes out, right?
Well,
Yeah, so this is really interesting. So that principle of the vacuum is it actually starts with the ability to not think, which machines can't do, by the way. Once you turn them on, they're doing their thing forever and ever until you pull the electricity off. But the human's mind's ability to not think, to blank their mind. Like just before you fall asleep, you sort of like, and then you go into dreamland. But the ability to not think is the precursor to thinking. It's the critical thinking skill. You have to have that Markov principle of null state and state, right? So until you have that, you can't compete with machines. So I'm an advocate of teaching kids to not think, right? Before they can critically think, they have to not think, which is kind of a fascinating concept. So that brings me to life skills, which you also mentioned, right? Which is a fascinating topic. So to have a life skill, you have to want, right? And be able to think you could apply it. So what you're doing to bring in professionals from different things is sort of like the old fashioned days, like remember the firemen came in, like, and they actually came into the classroom, and that your dad that was a doctor came in, and my dad that was a minister came in, and those were fun times. But now, like, there's so much that you could potentially walk into, that I love this network idea of bringing different individuals together, because being able to actually have a life skill and know that you're relevant makes the identity of your little youthful you so important to you, because now you have a thing, like you're going to do something, right? And I don't even remember us doing that when we were very young, but you're doing it when people are very young, right?
yeah, yeah, and what I I, I definitely agree with your thought process here. And yeah, we're seeing the need that we're trying to fill is it's a fact that many young people are struggling to envision their future in part because they don't see those paths unless they're exposed to things like what we're creating. I mean, to your point, it might be the anecdotal fireman or doctor coming into a classroom. If someone's parent may be in one of those professions, that was what I grew up with. But the ability to have access to, I mean, we've had NASA astronauts, and we have had senior engineers at major tech companies, a whole wide range of professions that again, the kids sometimes just need to see it and experience it so that they can understand that they can be it, or want to ask questions about how to be it, and kind of start on that journey. And that first step is that just kind of exploration and awareness phase, and that's
Yeah.
the thing that we are increasingly trying to bring into the lower grades, and of course into the middle and upper grades as well. But those explorations, like, that's really going to inform how kids are thinking about learning and the decisions that they make, and eventually it'll translate into how they think about careers. And it's something that we're incredibly passionate about.
Yeah, I love that. I think this is really critical. So you've touched on quite a few different points. So let me go further with another question. So, the curriculum value, like the value of digital curriculum today, um, now that teachers are starting to turn to AI, what I get out and speak about in all the cities that I hold field meetings in, I talk about the fact that AI is really good, but the teachers are complaining. 65% of teachers in our last national survey said, yes, but we don't want to have to build everything anymore. We don't want to have to do that. We want to have something done for us that is articulated into the realm of digital, right? Because when you make a lesson just yourself, it's probably going to be text, PowerPoint, Canva, something like that, maybe a video, right? but you're not going to do the majesticness that like Dreambox has, right? Your product that is literally running animations, and you can choose your little avatar body as the student doing the math and give it purple hair if you want to. It's actually like a game, right? And teachers don't want to have to build that level of really engaging stuff in the digital universe because they can't do that, right? Like that's too much stuff to do. So what are you talking when you talk to schools and districts, all your people talking to schools and districts about the differences between the digital, truly digital and digitized? Because I'm kind of tired of this argument. Truly digital is truly engaging. Digitized, why are you even bothering? This is my thought.
Yes, I agree. A PDF on a screen is not more engaging than a traditional, kind of print book. But no, this is something that we think a lot about. And yeah, we are digital first by nature. Everything we do is digital first. And I think you raised a couple of interesting points. And one, just kind of the need of the teacher. And this is something that it's core to how we think about our products and our development, where we're investing. I time is, I mean, to state the obvious, is really short for teachers these days. They're being pulled in all sorts of different directions. And actually, going back to our research study, I think it's 94% of our teachers responded saying that they want tools that are going to help them save time so they can get back to focusing on what's important, which is the kids. And,
Yeah.
ultimately, from our perspective, we're approaching it in a couple of ways. We will create that digital first engaging lesson. So a standards lined a lesson on volcanoes or photosynthesis, or take your pick on a topic that is the text, it is the video, it is the formative assessment already created. It can even be a link out to an augmented reality environment, all in that kind of PowerPoint ready to go. You literally just need to click share screen and it's there for the teacher to be able to deliver a lesson. So we've created thousands of those in our products. And that I think is an important element of how we are doing that for them so that they don't have to. I think the other piece, though, there are plenty of things that a teacher may want to have a little bit of a customization. But
Yeah.
historically, it's taken a lot of time. I think, look, quizzes are probably the best example. The number of hours, either of the summer or nights and weekends, that a teacher spends generating a quiz that tests, knowledge on a topic that they are going to teach in any given week, it's significant in a world where they already don't have enough time. So that's where we start to use tools like AI. So rather than AI is just going to create a whole library of things, we're very targeted in our workflow and thinking about what does the teacher need and how can we use technology to help them. And so in the case of our AI assessment generator, it's really as simple as you provide us the curriculum that you want to teach, preferably it's ours and it's already kind of embedded in the model, and we'll go ahead and create whatever types of quizzes that you want. Just a couple clicks of a button and it's automated. It will align to the standards that you want to test. Talk about reading levels. It covers Bloom's taxonomy. It's a very rigorous and probably more rigorous than most teachers can do on their own assessment item generator, but it's a snap of a finger versus having to invest a whole bunch of time. So that is very much in service of kind of one of our key tenets as a pioneer and still leader in EdTech is how do we continue to roll out tools like that will help the teacher be more effective and also give them the tools that are going to be engaging for students. So that's something we do every day. It's something we don't take for granted, but it's an area of focus every time we talk to a teacher is,
Yeah.
share your workflow, share your pain points. How can we bring solutions that are going to be of the highest quality and also save you time rather than take up additional time?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what I would be thinking a smart company would be trying to do. So I'm glad you're doing it. Well, I think this has been really a great conversation. So really what's next? Like, so when you look at all the data you looked at and you're doing what you're doing right now, that's really great. What's next for you? Like, where are you going?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, our priority is really around expanding our reach and our impact. And, to achieve this, we're going to pursue a strategy that we've actually been pursuing since way before the pandemic. It's really a focus on expanding our suite of services. So our flagship Discovery Education Experience, our tech books, Dreambox, which we talked about briefly, Dreambox Reading, Mystery Science, Mystery Writing, the entire suite of products. We've been very intentional about really creating and curating a library of products that are engaging, they're easy to use, they're effective, they're solving that need to save teachers time. And look, that suite we're going to continue to invest in, and we think we have the ability to grow our impact simply by continuing to take those award-winning services and make them better each and every day. And I
Yeah.
think about just the course of this conversation, we talked about a few things that we're doing. We're continuing to infuse things like AI into the products to be able to save teachers time. We're using AR and VR to make our products more engaging. We're also launching new products as well. So I mentioned Career Connect a few minutes ago, but we also just
Yeah.
launched mystery writing. So I talked about mystery science and that kind of grab and go, ready to use, highly engaging, kind of elementary school program for science. Well, we've repeated that playbook with a writing curriculum that really brings kind of engaging, what we call wow content, and helps the teacher really get students off the ground from zero to being able to write and kind of kindergarten through fifth grade. And those types of things are not major departures. It's not we're going to a completely different place. It is 2+ decades of expertise built up and knowledge of what students and teachers need, and continuing to iterate and innovate and make each and every one of them better. So it probably sounds a little simple. It's not, we're going to
No,
go.
that doesn't sound simple at all. Like literally most teachers are not trained instructional designers, okay? And they're definitely not digital designers. There's a whole different ball game directing attention digitally. And people that really know digital know that. I know that as a coder, and I have a lot of programmers working for me, so I know this, right? Um, there's several kinds of, last question, and then we will let everyone go. There's generative AI. There's also visual spatial AI that's coming in, right? Soon to follow is agentic AI that will do things for you. There's time AI, which we've been very involved in, which is going to change the model schedule that's been in place as a manufacturing line for forever. We like to call it Uberization. All of these things are going to converge. But what I know for sure that will happen is that it won't be unprofessional, right? It'll come into the scene from exactly who is this student and what exactly do they need. So the future is so personalized, but still social, and still teachers will be needed. What are your thoughts on that sort of blob vision of the future that I just gave you?
No, I think you're absolutely right. So my view of the future is that we are not going to lose sight of the student and driving learning outcomes. The teacher is going to remain a critical part of it. How I think all of these things are going to come together. There will be things like what I described earlier, the AI assessment generator that will save
Yeah, I
teachers
love that.
time, and that generative AI as a tool for teacher efficiency will be great. I do think adaptive engines and adaptive games and interactive programs will be increasingly important. So we talked about Dreambox Math is a great example of that. The amount of data that comes out of an adaptive program, the ability to truly get personalized in terms of the learning pathways for a student, uh, there's no better way to do it than with an adaptive program that is collecting data, that is feeding data and recommendations to the teachers and administrators, but it's also in real time, meandering a course for learning based on what it's seeing in the student's behavior and what topics may be mastered and which ones maybe need a bit more work. There's a lot of power to that, and
Yeah.
it's something that's already here, and it will continue to get better. And how we leverage the data that these types of products generate will continue to get better. But yeah, that's actually one of the exciting things that is ultimately the reason why we acquired Dreambox about a year ago, is that potential of that personalization, that data, and where that is going over the next few years, all in service of making learning outcomes better. And I do think
Mhm.
technology can do that, especially when used in the right way.
Yeah. And I'm on your side, just so you know. I'm trying to get a lot more schools and districts to go all in. Still, to my mind, which is unbelievable. There's still a lot of places that are like, yeah, technology. They're little, stick their nose in the air a little bit. Yeah, they can have a device and they can log into the learning management systems, but that's as deep as we go, right? Um, Kind of bored with that. So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I'm glad you're pushing the envelope. It's super awesome. So with that said, we will let people go. Thank you very much, Brian. It was really great to have you.
Likewise, LeiLani, I really appreciate the time. It's a great conversation.
All right. All right. And thank you for listening to another episode of the Learning Council's podcast. This has been your host, LeiLani Cawthon. Keep listening, keep learning. Go check out Discover Education and my friend Brian.